I'm just saying, she got lucky. Chelsea's voice cut through the air like a blade. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. She's just a single mom who happened to marry rich. No degree, no career, nothing real behind it, she said, laughing as she sipped her mimosa like it was truth serum. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. The others chuckled, including my brother Brian, who gave a little nod, clearly trying to keep up with his wife's social flex. I sat there quietly at the brunch table, sunlight pouring through the glass walls of their sleek Manhattan penthouse. Chelsea had invited all of Brian's colleagues and their wives for an intimate family brunch, which felt more like a performance. I wasn't dressed in Chanel, and my toddler had spilled milk on my sleeve that morning. So clearly, I didn't belong. You know what I mean, right, Ashley? Chelsea turned to the redhead sitting beside her, a woman I barely knew. Like, there's a difference between women who build things and women who get lucky. Ashley gave me an awkward glance. I don't know. She has no place here, Chelsea whispered, but loud enough that the entire table could hear. I blinked. The room was suddenly too bright, too loud, and too small. My son, Noah, was with the nanny downstairs. I'd wanted him to be with me. But Chelsea said it was an adult brunch. I should have known better. I stood up, quietly. The chatter paused. I didn't say a word. I just grabbed my purse and tried to breathe. It wasn't anger. Not yet. Just that familiar pressure behind the ribs, shame, the kind you carry when you've been dismissed without being allowed to defend yourself. I was halfway to the elevator when a sleek black Escalade rolled to a stop outside the building's glass entry. My husband stepped out. 6'3", slate gray suit, aviators on. His presence made people stand. Silence fell inside as the doorman practically sprinted to greet him. He walked straight into the building, up the stairs, ignoring the doorman's mention of an elevator, and then pushed open the brunch doors like he owned the air inside. Because he did. Funny, he said, looking directly at Chelsea, then at Brian, whose face was already pale. I came for her. The silence cracked. Chelsea blinked fast. Wait, you're? He turned to me, smiled like I was the only person that mattered in the room, and extended his hand. Come on, baby. I've had enough fake brunches this week. I slid my hand into his, and his fingers tightened protectively around mine. And just like that, the girl they all mocked was walking out with the very man they spent the last 10 minutes name-dropping, trying to impress. Only to realize, too late, that he was mine. But what none of them knew, not yet, was what I was building behind the scenes. Because I didn't just marry a powerful man. I was becoming one. And this war? It was only just beginning. The car door shut behind me, sealing away the awkward tension of the brunch table like it was yesterday's trash. I leaned my head back against the leather seat, silent, trying to slow my breath. My husband glanced over, his fingers still loosely holding mine. You good? He asked, voice low and calm, but I saw the flicker of something darker in his eyes, something that only came out when someone hurt me. I nodded slowly. I shouldn't have come. You should have, he replied, tugging my hand gently. They just shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I gave a dry laugh. You saw their faces?
He smirked. Yeah.
I think Brian choked on his ego. The car pulled away from the curb, rolling through the streets of Manhattan like a silent tank. But the truth was I wasn't okay. Not really. Because this wasn't the first time I'd been made to feel small. Like I was just a side piece in someone else's spotlight. Like my story didn't matter. Chelsea had always hated me. Ever since the wedding. She married Brian thinking she'd be the queen of the family. But then I met Ethan, and the world shifted. She called me a lucky waitress. She didn't know I had been working 2 jobs, raising Noah alone, clawing my way out of the debt my ex dumped on me before vanishing. She didn't know the sleepless nights, the skipped meals, or the silent tears in locked bathroom stalls. All she saw was the ring on my finger. And to her, that meant I hadn't earned a damn thing. But what none of them understood was, I wasn't just Ethan's wife. I was building something brick by brick. 3 years ago, when Ethan married me, he didn't just hand me luxury. He handed me trust. He taught me how to read financials, how to understand acquisitions, how to see loopholes in contracts, how to build a team. I'd started small. A quiet real estate investment in Brooklyn. Then another in Jersey. Then a startup fund for women-led local businesses. Last month, I acquired my 5th property under the company I started for my dining table, Sable Rise Group. They didn't know I was already sitting on assets worth 8 figures. They didn't know I had just been invited to speak at a private equity panel in DC. And they definitely didn't know I was working with Ethan's firm to secure a deal that would shift the entire luxury hotel market in New York, and Chelsea's daddy's portfolio sat right in the middle of it. So no, I wasn't going to cry over brunch mimosas. Let them laugh. Let them call me lucky. Because luck wasn't what got me here.
Pain did.
Grit did. Sleepless nights, unpaid bills, screaming into pillows so my son wouldn't hear. That's what built the woman I was now. And I wasn't finished. Later that evening, as I sat on our balcony, laptop open, finalizing a deal proposal, Ethan walked out holding Noah, already in pajamas. My son curled into my side like he always did, and Ethan kissed the top of my head. "You thinking about Chelsea?" he asked. I shrugged. "Not really." "I heard something today," he said, sitting down beside me. "Brian's company is in trouble. Major investors pulling out. SECs sniffing around." I paused. "Oh, really?" I said too calmly.
He looked at me.
"You thinking what I'm thinking?" A slow smile crept up my face. "Maybe it's time Sable Rise made a bid." Ethan grinned. "Now that's my girl." And in that moment, I wasn't just the woman who got mocked at brunch. I was the woman planning a takeover. The woman about to show them exactly what kind of luck I had. 2 days later, I was sitting in a conference room in Midtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Marble table. Men in suits who barely looked at me when I entered.
Typical.
But they would. "Gentlemen," I began, standing at the head of the table. My voice didn't shake. "I'm here to make an offer." One of them, gray hair, smug eyes, folded his arms. "And who exactly are you?" I smiled. "I'm the founder and managing partner of Sable Rise Group. We've been quietly acquiring distressed commercial properties throughout the tri-state area. I believe you're familiar with his portfolio." I slid a folder across the table. Inside, market projections, audit flags, valuation breakdowns, and a signed letter of intent to purchase controlling shares of Barrow and Finch, my brother's company. Now, they were silent, because the name Sable Rise had been circulating for months, and nobody had managed to connect it to me.
Until now.
One man leaned forward. "Wait, you're her?" I tilted my head slightly. "Her who?" His lips parted, but he didn't say it. Didn't say the single mom or the wife of Ethan Wright. Because in that moment, I wasn't anyone's shadow. I was the storm. "I know Barrow and Finch is bleeding," I said. "I also know that they've been hiding key losses for the last 3 quarters. What I'm offering is a full acquisition, cash.
Clean.
You'll walk away with your skin intact." "And your brother?" one of them asked. I stared at him. He should have been careful who he laughed at. That evening, I sat in the back of a quiet jazz lounge in Soho, laptop on the table, reviewing numbers. My son was asleep at home. Ethan was at a business dinner uptown. I needed silence to think. And then my phone buzzed. Chelsea. Of course. I let it go to voicemail. Then it buzzed again. A text this time. "Did you seriously just buy into Brian's company? Are you insane?" I didn't answer. She was finally catching on. But this wasn't just about business. This was about every time I sat at that brunch table swallowing my dignity. About the time they laughed when I showed up in thrift store boots. The time she told me Noah would probably grow up confused without a real father. And the time she smiled when my car broke down outside their building and didn't offer to help. This was never just about money.
It was about respect.
About rebuilding what they tried to break. 3 days later, I was invited to a last-minute family dinner at Brian's place. The same penthouse. Same polished wine glasses. Chelsea wore diamonds again. But this time, they were trying. Brian pulled out my chair. Chelsea complimented my coat. Everyone was syrup sweet. But I already knew. The sale had gone through that morning. Quietly.
Strategically.
My holding company now owns 62% of Barrow and Finch. My brother was no longer CEO. And they didn't even know who had replaced him. Until the elevator opened. Ethan walked in first. He smiled, gave Brian a polite nod, then stepped aside. And I walked in behind him. I wasn't in heels. I wasn't in anything designer. Just a sleek black suit. My hair pulled back. And a folder in my hand. Chelsea froze. Brian stood up. What's going on? I opened the folder and handed it to him. This is your official notice. Effective immediately, the board has appointed a new interim CEO of Barrow and Finch. His hands trembled slightly. You're kidding. I met his eyes. No, Brian. I'm not. Silence. The kind that makes your lungs feel too big for your chest. Chelsea whispered, This is insane. Ethan laughed softly behind me.
No.
This is what happens when you underestimate the quiet one. I stepped closer. You tried to break me. Again and again. But you didn't see what I was building. I paused. You called me lucky. But I wasn't lucky. I was watching. I was learning. And now, I'm running everything you thought I'd never understand. Chelsea opened her mouth, but nothing came out. And then Noah's voice rang behind us, from the hallway. Mommy? He came running in, our nanny behind him. I scooped him up, holding him tight. Because this moment wasn't just for me. It was for every woman who got laughed at. Every single mom they called a burden. Every quiet girl they thought wouldn't fight back. And the best part? This was only part 3. Brian didn't show up to the office the next morning. His assistant said he wasn't feeling well. But we both knew it wasn't a cold. It was collapse. His email account had been suspended. Company credit cards? Frozen. The senior board had already been briefed on the internal audit I ordered. Because when you run a business like it's your personal ATM, eventually, someone checks the receipts. And I was that someone now. Back at the Sable Rise office, my office, sunlight streamed through the glass, casting soft light on the deal folders I'd spread out across the desk. My team was growing, 11 women and 5 men, each of them survivors in their own way. I didn't hire based on degrees or LinkedIn connections. I hired grit. I hired character. And I never asked anyone where they came from, just where they wanted to go. Tasha, my head of operations, knocked and entered. He's here. I stood and straightened my blazer. Send him in. Brian walked in looking nothing like the man who once smirked through my baby shower like it was a chore. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loose, and his pride clinging by a thread. He didn't sit. He just stared. You really did it, he muttered. You actually took it. I met his eyes. No, Brian. I earned it. While you were playing Legacy Prince, I was working. Every hour. Every contract. Every late night. I didn't take anything. You lost it. He stepped forward, face tightening. This was supposed to be my company. And now it's mine. He let out a bitter laugh. All because you married rich. I shook my head. You still don't get it, do you? I walked around the desk, stopping just inches from him. I didn't win because I married Ethan. I married Ethan because I was already a fighter. Because I knew what pain meant. Because I was worth standing beside. And while you and Chelsea were mocking me, I was learning everything. I didn't marry up. I built up. He looked away. I'll give you a choice, I said, softer now. You can walk out with dignity. Resign, take your severance, and do something different. Or, I keep digging. And if I find what I think I will, you'll be answering to more than just the board.
He was quiet for a long time.
Then he nodded. You'll hear from my lawyer. I hope I don't, I said. Because if you drag this out, I'll stop being kind. That evening, I sat on the couch with Ethan, Noah between us, eating popcorn and watching a movie. Do you regret any of it? Ethan asked quietly, eyes not on the screen. I thought for a moment. Sometimes, I admitted. I wish they'd been proud. That family wasn't just a word. Ethan wrapped his arm around my shoulder. That's not on you. Noah looked up, half asleep. Mommy, are you sad? I kissed his hair.
No, baby.
I'm proud. And I was. Because even in the darkest corners of my story, I had held on to my son, my vision, and my dignity. Even when no one else saw it, I knew I was building something greater. 2 weeks later, I was invited to speak at the Women in Leadership conference in D.C. I stood in front of 1,000 people, lights hot on my face. I told them the truth, that I had once scrubbed dishes at 2 a.m. while holding a sleeping baby on my hip, that I'd cried in grocery store aisles with $6 in my pocket, that I'd been laughed at by my own family. But I had learned something that no Ivy League ever taught. That power doesn't come from privilege. It comes from pain, from endurance, from refusing to stay quiet when the world tells you to sit down. The audience stood and clapped before I even finished. And somewhere in that crowd, a woman with tired eyes and calloused hands clutched her notepad a little tighter, thinking, if she could do it, maybe I can too. But the real moment? It came 1 month later. I was sitting in a midtown cafe when Chelsea walked in. No diamonds this time. No fake laugh. Just her, and a folded newspaper in hand. She stopped at my table and placed the paper down. Single OM turned CEO shakes the East Coast market. I didn't say a word. She pulled out the chair, sat across from me, and whispered, I didn't know who you were. I met her eyes. I didn't either. Until I had to be. And I meant it. Because this version of me? She was born in fire. And I wasn't done yet. A month passed. The city kept moving, people rushing, deals closing, names being forgotten and replaced. But mine stayed on every boardroom's tongue. They whispered it, respected it. Some feared it. And yet, I still made breakfast every morning, packed Noah's lunch, tied his shoelaces. That part of me never changed. No matter how many zeros were added to my name. One morning, I stood by the school gates, watching Noah run in. He turned back and shouted, Love you, Mommy. A dad beside me smiled. He's got your strength. I just nodded. He's why I have it. That same afternoon, I got a call. Are you free tonight? Ethan asked. Depends, I said, sorting through emails. I have a surprise. Where something powerful. That made me laugh. I always do. He picked me up at 7. Black suit. Subtle cologne. That familiar confidence that calmed me even on storm days. We pulled up outside the Oran, a private members club known for keeping cameras out and power in. Inside, the lighting was low, and the crowd was small but potent. CEOs, financiers, and a few faces from that very brunch weeks ago, including Chelsea.
She froze when she saw me.
Because this time, I wasn't walking in awkwardly, adjusting a loose strap or wondering where to sit. I was being led to the head table. Ethan whispered, They want you to speak. I raised a brow. Tonight? They changed the program after seeing the guest list. You've shaken up the market too hard to be ignored. A mic was placed in my hand 20 minutes later. I didn't prepare anything. I just looked around, heart calm, and said, People once told me I didn't belong. That I was just a girl with no pedigree. That I got lucky. A pause. And maybe I did, but not the way they think. I got lucky that I failed. That I fell. That I struggled. Because it taught me how to rise without permission. I met Chelsea's eyes directly. They called me a single mom like it was an insult. But what they didn't know, what they never expected, was that I'd be the one signing their paychecks. I set the mic down and walked off stage to thunderous applause. Later that night, at home, in pajamas and with makeup wiped off, I curled up beside Ethan. You know, I said quietly, there's still a part of me that hurts.
From the way they looked at me.
Laughed at me. He pulled me closer. That part of you? That's the part that made you unstoppable. I rested my head on his chest. Because he was right. And I finally understood. I wasn't just a woman who survived mockery. I was the woman who turned that mockery into momentum. And the next time someone laughed, I wouldn't walk away. I'd build higher. right in front of them.